Amid the thunder of artillery, behind the shifting front lines, something else is happening. Not tanks, not drones, not airstrikes, convoys, buses moving slowly out of combat zones, children, elderly, small bags, escorted by heavily armed military vehicles. The question is simple: is this purely humanitarian or part of a broader military calculation? In modern warfare, no movement is neutral. Every civilian relocation reshapes the map. Every evacuation alters legitimacy. Every camera recording it shapes the global narrative. Today, we are not discussing who fired first. We are examining something more complex: who is moving, who is being moved, and who ultimately benefits. Because in the war in Ukraine, even evacuation can be strategy. To understand evacuation, we have to understand the battlefield. Front lines in eastern and southern Ukraine are not static. They bend, they collapse, they advance, sometimes within days. Artillery range matters, drone surveillance matters, logistics routes matter even more. When combat intensifies near urban settlements, civilians become a variable in a military equation. Too many civilians in a contested zone create complications. For attacking forces, they slow maneuver. They increase international scrutiny. They raise the risk of collateral damage narratives. For defending forces, they complicate fortification. They restrict artillery response. They create humanitarian pressure. So evacuation becomes operational, not emotional. Operational. Moving civilians out can serve multiple functions: reducing civilian casualties, freeing military mobility, securing supply corridors, controlling information flow. In several reported cases, evacuations occurred shortly before intensified shelling or ground assaults. Timing matters. When civilians leave, combat usually follows. This is not unique to this war. From Syria to Iraq to the Balkans, civilian relocation has often preceded escalation. The presence of buses and military escorts signals preparation. Preparation for what? Stability, consolidation, or expanded operations? In war, removing civilians from a zone does not end tension. It often signals that tension is about to increase. Recent months have shown a pattern. Evacuations intensify when artillery exchanges escalate, when drone strikes increase, when urban perimeters become unstable. Local administrations issue warnings. Military units coordinate transport. Temporary shelters are prepared deeper behind controlled lines. Official statements frame it clearly: protection, safety, humanitarian duty. And on the surface, that is undeniable. Civilians trapped near active shelling zones face real danger. Power grids fail, water systems collapse, medical access disappears, evacuation can save lives. But timing remains critical. In several frontline districts, evacuation announcements came days, sometimes hours, before intensified combat operations. That pattern raises questions. Is evacuation reactive or preemptive? Because when civilians leave, rules of engagement subtly shift. Heavy artillery can be used more freely. Air-dropped munitions face fewer urban restrictions. Infantry advances encounter fewer humanitarian obstacles. Urban warfare changes when streets are empty. And then there is perception. Footage of buses carrying families, children waving from windows, soldiers assisting elderly civilians. These images travel faster than missiles. Information warfare is not secondary in this conflict. It runs parallel to kinetic operations. Evacuation scenes can reinforce narratives of responsibility or fuel accusations of forced relocation, depending on who tells the story. International organizations often call for voluntary, transparent processes. Monitoring becomes difficult in contested areas. Verification becomes contested itself. Meanwhile, the ground reality remains harsh. Many civilians leave reluctantly, Some refuse entirely. Some return when fighting subsides, only to evacuate again weeks later. Front lines move. Civilians move. Control shifts. This cycle has defined multiple sectors of the war in 2025 and now into 2026. Evacuation is no longer an isolated event. It is becoming a recurring mechanism within an evolving battlefield strategy. And that changes how we interpret it. Because when evacuations repeat, they stop being emergency responses. They become part of operational planning. The most important question is not how the evacuation looks. It is what it enables. When civilians are removed from a frontline district, three things change immediately. First, firepower flexibility increases. Heavy artillery, glide bombs, precision strikes. Urban restraint decreases when civilian density drops. Second, territorial consolidation becomes easier. Empty neighborhoods are simpler to control. Administrative systems can be replaced faster. Security screening becomes more efficient. Third, demographic reality shifts. Who leaves, where they are relocated, whether they return or cannot. In long wars, demographics matter as much as tanks. Population movement influences future political claims, reconstruction control, referendum narratives, post-war legitimacy. This is why evacuation is not just humanitarian logistics. It is territorial shaping. And once shaping begins, reversal becomes difficult. Because cities can be rebuilt, but population patterns, once altered by war, rarely return to their original form. In war, what moves matters. Tanks move, front lines move, missiles move. But when civilians move, the war itself shifts. Evacuation can be protection, it can be precaution, it can also be preparation. All three can exist at the same time. That is the uncomfortable reality. Because modern conflict is no longer fought only with weapons. It is fought with perception, with population control, with timing. When buses leave a contested town, silence follows. And silence on a battlefield rarely means peace. It often means something is coming. The real story is not only about who evacuates civilians, it is about what happens next in the space they leave behind. In this war, territory is measured in kilometers, but influence is measured in movement. And sometimes the most strategic maneuver is not an advance. It is an absence.